I'm wondering, it's a judge in this case who, by the way, is 92. And
Yeah.
there has been an op-ed calling for him to recuse himself based on that. I don't know where you stand on that, if you stand on that. But he before him has basically the indictment, right? He's not concerned with how the prisoner got to him. So he won't be looking at the international law aspect of it, as far as I understand, right? So he'll just look at the indictment. So is it probable that he will order a trial, that this will actually go to trial?
I think it's quite likely that this will go to trial. You're correct that courts basically only assess their jurisdiction based on whether, the individual is in that jurisdiction, and they are not concerned with how they got there. So the court isn't going to be asking, did you illegally render, Maduro, Flores, and their child, to that area. What they will be assessing is whether he has what's called a head of state defense. And the leaders of foreign countries can claim head of state immunity. And as you were kind of previewing earlier, it's likely that the Trump administration will say they don't recognize Maduro as the, legitimate, lawful head of state. And in the past, courts have been willing to defer to the executive branch's determination about who is and who isn't a head of state. Now, just because they're willing to defer doesn't mean they're willing to say yes to anything, but that's going to be an issue here.
As opposed to Noriega, Manuel Noriega in Panama, who was not a head of state.
Exactly. He was just a dictator who served alongside, right, a string of presidents. He was never elected. Maduro now has been exercising the powers of the head of state for several years, controlling the military, governing the country, et cetera, et cetera. So, yes, Maduro has a much stronger, head of state defense claim, than Noriega had.
And definitely tune in next week. Larry Mantle will be here, and he will host a conversation called The Politics of Hunger, Confronting Poverty in a Time of Division and Crisis. And that is next Wednesday, again, at 5 o'clock Pacific. And I will see you next time. Bye.